I didn't know it would just go straight into the live stream. And somebody started watching. I was like, oh my God, get out quick. Right, so that's on there now. And then I can press record. Amazing. Hello, everybody. And I've just had an offer. I'm just going to accept. Hello, everybody. This Wisdom Webinars is discussing what to do when you don't know what to do. So the title came about because I am Mimi too. So my little grandson was born just over a week ago or 2 weeks ago. Anyway, I can't remember when it was. It's been a whirlwind 2 weeks ago. And he was 4 weeks premature. And during my stay, I said, oh, I've got wisdom and I haven't done any planning for it. And Dazzle, my son, said, well, why don't you talk about what to do when you don't know what to do? Because this week you haven't know what to do. Now, I don't know whether he was trying to tell me something, but anyway, that's what we're calling it. So without further ado, let's get into it. So I thought it was a good topic. And one of the reasons is I've just been on a weekend gig where I talked about confidence, and just earlier before this I did an hour on confidence with a group, and I think the two things go hand in hand. And I'll just describe it for you a little bit so you get a bit of context. So Odysseus is the second child of my son, and we have a 4-year-old granddaughter called Maya Rose. And we knew when he was in the womb that he was going to be born with an impediment. His left arm is missing and his left little hand. So he's come out with a hook. And that she was going to have an elective cesarean section because of other difficulties and so on. And they invited me to be there during the birth, which was an amazing offer. And so, of course, I said yes. And then there were complications and she went into hospital, and there was, to in and fro it. And but 4 weeks early, or 5 weeks early at the time. And so the week that I'd booked off to go down and be at the birth was null and void. And so then it was, is she going to have it? What's going to happen? And I live it on a good run. It's a 2.5 hour journey, but it can be longer than that to drive down there. So I was humming and hawing what to do, whether to go, whether to stay. And my husband kept saying, no, like, they're going to need you when Odie is born. Don't go too soon. Keep your powder dry. And I was saying, well, my son Dazzle's struggling and he didn't know how to use the washing machine. He's probably going to love me for sharing this. And he went into a meltdown, and it was all chaos. And I felt the urgency of going. I wanted to go. But Papa said, no, this is not the right time. Dazzle's just going to have to get over himself and sort it out. And you're going to be needed when the baby's born. So I held on, and the moment passed. And then the next time I felt urgency was, so Lolly was in hospital. She was in hospital for a week. She came out, kicked Dazzle's ass, got the washing machine sorted, and went back into hospital. She's a real trooper, that girl. And we knew he's going to come sooner. So this was on the 4th or 5th of November. And so they were saying, now we're going to bring the C-section forward. And instead of the 25th of November, it's going to be the 10th of November. So I brought my week forward as well and rearranged things. And then on the Saturday, the 5th of November, it became pretty obvious that Odie was going to have to be born by an emergency cesarean section that evening. And I think I knew this about 9 o'clock, and we're early to bed people, so we were already in bed, and I immediately felt that urgency. I need to get up now. I need to go and drive down and be there, and what are they going to think if I don't respond like this? You know, I want them to know that I care and I want to be there for them. And it was a filthy night. It was pouring with rain. And again, you know, the voice of reason who lives with me said, that's not a good idea. You're not going to be allowed in the delivery room in an emergency C-section. So you're just going to be sitting in the waiting room all night. And it's a really horrible night. Why do you want to drive down now? And so on. And I was so irritated. I was like, yes, but I have to go. I have to be, you know, Superwoman and go down. And everything about me wanted to get in that car. And I'd already pre-packed, get in that car and go. But I'm very fortunate is in that I do sometimes listen to the voice of reason. And so I kicked my heels and went and sat on the sofa, and I thought, right, I'm going to stay up on that all night until he's born, you know, and I watched some Netflix and sat there. And in time, my mind settled down and I realized the sense in not going. And I realized that by listening to that urgency, which I really wanted to do, you know, it wasn't me that stopped me. It was me, a deeper me listening to Rob. It wasn't me. It didn't come from me, if you like. I realized that how often in my life I listened to that urgency, whereas actually it was perfect to, I didn't stay up all night because he was born at 2:49. So actually by 1 o'clock I fell asleep. and Dazzle had texted me and said, oh, I need you in top form. Like, I don't want you to drive in the night when it's dangerous and in the dark and in the rain. And by the way, you wouldn't be allowed in anyway. So, you know, Papa was right after all. So I said, right, okay, well, that's great then. So I got some hours sleep, and even then I didn't rush. You know, I had some breakfast and got ready and went at a normal pace down to Crawley, and it turned out to be the perfect time. And then when I got there, we're in the hospital. There's too many people in the room. I can tell that there's too many people in the room. None of us can see the baby anyway. Lolly's worn out, and I was a bit of a spare part. And I thought, you know, I was going down and I'd be like, yeah, I'm in charge of this. I'm in charge of the school run, and I've got everything sorted. And I actually turned up to the hospital thinking, well, I don't know what to do. I don't think that there should be all these people around Lolly. She needs rest, and I don't want to be in the way. And I had all this other new thinking. And so I just stayed quiet, and I just, as much as possible, stayed out the way. And I just tried to be, because I didn't know what else to do. And as it happened, they left Maya with me, and they went off, and Nana went to see baby, and they all did various things. And me and Maya played theatre. So I was in the hospital bed, and she was behind the curtain, and she was, you know, miming, and I had to guess what the film is, or who the character was. And we played that for a nice hour or so. And that really set up the week. During the week, there was so much waiting and so much not knowing what to do that I had to dampen down my go-getter and sorter out and project manager because I wasn't in charge. I was there to be of service, to be a pair of hands. And I couldn't keep saying, well, what do you want me to do? And if I noticed that something needed doing, like the washing up or folding the washing or whatever, I did those things. But I didn't want to be the interfering mother-in-law, and start. So Dazzle had to do visits to the hospital and things like that. And I could have easily, the house needed sorting out. The house was a house of people who were selling a lot of stuff. So there was stuff everywhere, and the baby's room wasn't ready and all sorts of things. And I could have easily gone into action and sorted that stuff out. But again, I kicked my heels and thought, well, is that what's really required here? Is that what's needed of me? The busybody who comes and puts everything away and then they can't find it, when I've gone. Or is my job here just to be here and be available? It makes me quite emotional now when I look back and see it like that, because I didn't know that was my job. I thought my job was action, but my actual job was emotional support, the rock, the unfazed one who could be relied on to just be there and talk or listen. Not the running around doing stuff. And there was some running around doing stuff, and I ended up taking Maya to school and got in charge of the school run, and that was my badge, my prefect badge for the week, and loved doing that. And as I say, there was some stuff to help with, but the real gift that I could give them was to just be. And when Dazzle came up with the idea of the title for this, what to do when you don't know what to do, I thought, just be. Like so many times in my past, when I don't know what to do, I get busy doing. I find something to do, or I plan, or I get into something. And the just being was a blessing, because there was emotion, there was upset, there was different people needing different things. And through it all, I was just because I was being, not because I'm a hero, because I could easily have been one of those other people as well. I was just able to be there and be available emotionally and physically if required. And then I came home, and there was a night when I was on my own, and they brought the baby home from hospital, and they had that as a family, and I got out the way, and that was the right thing to do. And I felt so dejected. I sat in my little room thinking, well, that's it now, I'm useless now. I'm not wanted anymore. And had all these insecure thoughts. I might as well just go home then. I'm not wanted anymore. And of course I was wanted. The next day it was back to, when are you coming around? Are you taking Maya to school? And so on. So, and then we started a new phase with Mom being home, and there was different things to do in those few days. And I came home and I thought, wow, that was amazing. It was an amazing week on so many levels. But now I'm really busy, because now I've got a week to catch up on. And I did do some stuff during that time, but I wanted to be as available as possible. So it was very little. And then I got this flu thing, or whatever it is, RSV, COVID, everything all in one. And it completely knocked me off my feet. And so I've had to strip back again. I've had to not rush around, not catch up, not do all the things that I thought I was going to do. And I could have done, but And an old version of me might have done, pushed through. In fact, one of my friends on this call said, are you pushing through? Because they know me. And actually, in this instance, I didn't push through because I thought, what do I need to do? Oh, that's interesting. I'm ill and I need to just be again. How interesting. And so I've slowed right down and I've just been with the illness, done whatever I needed to do when it needed to be done, slept, etc. And what's amazing is my mind has completely slowed down to a few months ago when I had a massive insight about rest and my mind slowed down. And over time, it's got a little bit more speedy and a little bit more speedy and a little bit more speedy till I'm maybe not at 100 miles an hour, but I'm certainly, generally between 60 and 80. And my mind has slowed down. And at first it was just a fog, that's gone, fortunately. My mind has slowed down so much. And yet a thing that needs to happen pops into it. So we had to move a group this week and I hadn't sent the email, and just randomly that popped into my mind. It's not on a to-do list. Well, it actually is on a to-do list that I didn't look at. But it popped into my mind. I thought, look at that. Look at how what needs to be done gets told to you. How much do I miss by getting on with what I'm doing and speeding up? And I would say, I love doing lots of things and I love interesting things. And I say yes to everything. But how much more being can there be if I had more space? If I didn't just jump into the next thing straight away, if I allowed myself to not know what I'm going to do. I always know months in advance. I forget that we're in November because December's already planned and I'm often looking at bits and bobs in December. What about if I allowed myself to not know? What am I doing today? What would that look like? So the other thing was that when I spoke to the lovely Alfie earlier this week, she helped me see that the slowing down enabled me to really acknowledge the blessing that I received last week. The time with a brand new baby, with a thing of love, an unthinking creature that's just, and we never got that opportunity with our first grandchild for various reasons. So the fact that I was given that gift and given that opportunity was amazing at the time. But then to not then rush into that was another week in my life type of thing, and let that wear me, be me, be absorbed into my consciousness. And I don't think that I still know the wholeness of that gift. That was a brilliant reminder. And I've even sat down and just made a few notes, and it was such a precious week, not just for Odysseus, but for my time spent with Dazzle and Maya. A week together that we haven't had since he was 18 years old. A week taking Maya to school, all of those gifts that were just normal everyday things. And this slowing down this week, being ill, enabled me to really embrace that. And then people have asked me, you know, and I'm able to immediately ignite those feelings of, I did say that they really shouldn't leave the baby with me because I just want to eat it. You know, it's like, every time he was in my house, I just wanted to snuggle it and run off with it. And I posted the thing saying I was going for a run with him, which I obviously didn't really do. It was meant as a joke, but a few people said to me, enjoy the run. And I thought, I guess I could have done, but I don't think Mom would have been impressed. So yeah, I wanted to share that, and that's how all of that came about. I just wanted to pause there for a second in case there were any thoughts or comments or anything you guys wanted to share. And hello to Wilson and Jill, who came in a bit later. Yes, Alfie. Sorry, I waved back at you then.
You know what's so interesting hearing you speaking there was when you were saying how you realized last week that or when you were down there, that your job was just to be that kind of space holder or anchor or something like that. And it just made me think, wow, that's probably always our only job, isn't it? Like, it's almost, you know, I can imagine that, like being in that space and kind of going, okay, I just have to accept that this is my, as if at some point we go back to normal and all the action and the plans and all the things that we think are our real job will start again. But that's always our job, whatever we're doing, isn't it? Like, I guess. And yeah, how kind of out of control that can feel, or all the feelings you describe, like, you know, how will I know I'm doing something worthwhile if I'm just, you know, all those thoughts that we layer on top. So that was interesting to hear that in what you were saying.
Yeah, because it could have felt like if I'd have, you know, cleaned the house from top to bottom and sold all the things they wanted to sell and organized the baby's wardrobe and, you know, built the Moses basket, and that you can come home with that list of achievements. These are all the things I made myself really useful. You know, these are all the things. And that was actually was my intention. You know, I have to admit that I used words like, I'm available for whatever you need. I'll bring the car so I can drive people places if that's what's required, or go shopping, or do the washing, or, you know, whatever's required. And there were some gnarly tasks that I took on. But seeing that actually the massive impact of me just taking the role of I'm just here for support was even more impactful than coming home with that list of achievements. That I could not have imagined that. And I don't know why, you know, that I couldn't imagine that, but I absolutely couldn't have imagined that. And I realized as well, Alfie, you're absolutely right, because I realized that those other achievements make me feel like I'm doing something or being of service. The just being part, with all the insecurity that came with that for me, maybe other people don't feel that, but that certainly came with it for me. Am I doing enough? Actually, that was more service than anything else. But you know, it's obvious now, but I couldn't have known that. And you're right. I want to look at more areas of my life in my mentoring. You know, where am I getting my sticky fingers into the mentoring with people? Whereas actually that's not my role at all. You know, I feel like, as a pragmatic person and as a person who has experienced that, it's valuable to share those things with people, and they ask for it. And I noticed with a client this morning, it's a supervision type role. So they come with, these are my questions about my clients, can you help? Or these are my questions about these things that I want to start, can you help? And I didn't not help, but what I realized was, but my real work here is to help you slow down, and you can answer those questions. Not, I think you know the answer type of thing, you know, but actually, if I show you where you can have space in your life, if I help and keep pointing you towards that, that's a more valuable than me helping you run a listening workshop or sort out this issue with a client. And like I say, I still did both, but it was another blessing and another reminder of everything is in that divine space. And is there way less to do than we think? You know, on a daily basis, where I've got this list and I've got these things and I've got these projects, and is there less to do than I think there is? Because what's happened to all of that stuff? Actually, because I've been ill, I've done what I fancied and what occurred to me to be, oh, you need to do that. What would it be like if I lived life like that? And sometimes that looks like get a job, or you know, clean the house or whatever. You know, there's some, it's not all about divine inspiration and then, you know, 3,000 people turned up at my door wanting coaching. But it's about that, what's alive right now. Oh, and then I can change my mind. I can do that, what's alive right now. And that doesn't have to be a forever thing. That can be what I'm doing right now. So I'm getting a job, or I'm running a program, or I'm exercising, or I'm meditating now. But then the next now might be, I don't need to do that.
What's so curious is that bit that's doing the being and the holding space or following the next thing. I guess that's never not doing that. That's never switched off. It's never something to be instead. It's like just whether we layer all the other busyness on top of it or not. And had you gone down there and done all the selling and the cleaning, the thing that you would have been doing would still have been the being and the stuff that didn't look like the doing, you know. It wouldn't have been like the doing, the other stuff still wouldn't have been the real any more doing than, you know. Do you know what I'm saying? I can't really put it into words, I don't think, but something I'm seeing in what you're saying.
What I was hearing then was, we're always being, and sometimes that looks like a doing. And then for me, and then I get carried away with the doing and the knowing and the path, the next steps, and the being sure of what comes next, instead of allowing that. There's a real humility now, just seeing it now, there's a real humility in not knowing, which I know I've said before, but in really not knowing and allowing myself to just not know and be okay with that not knowing. There was a softness about it that I think seemed new to me. And that softness, you know, sort of came forward into my life now. In the main, I've been a bit scratchy today because I'm fed up of being ill. You know, it's outside my time frame. I was okay being ill for a week, you know, but it's over a week now. But again, that's a good example of, I totally accepted, I'm ill, this is not going to be quick, I'm going to need more sleep, more whatever than I normally have. I'm going to go with it. And of course, when I stopped accepting it today, I got irritated and I got bored with coughing and fed up of not sleeping, and, you know, all of that kicked in. And all it was is, instead of just being with what is, I was just really slightly turned towards what I think it should be and what isn't. And just that small orientation creates, you know, resistance, creates the angst and the blur.
I had a sort of an experience recently where I have had this, what you were saying of being me. Both my parents have got dementia, they're 88 and 90. And as you know, I still work. And I'm a 50s woman who can't afford to retire because of pensions, all those things. And I've been trying to work out my future. And what happens if mum and dad are, obviously the situation's going to get worse. I can't draw my pension till next July. Do I reduce my hours? Do I move house? Do I have them here? And I was actually driving myself mad and really getting very angry. And I hated the fact that the government had stitched me up, and I was really not very pleasant to be around. I was just horrible. I just felt like just angry all the time. And then I had this sort of light bulb moment. That now I can relate to your story. I hadn't realised, where I just thought, do nothing. Do absolutely nothing. Stop trying to make a decision about something you have no control over. I don't know how the future is going to pan out. I have no time scale. It is all an unknown. Roll with it. Just take each day, each week as it comes. And, you know, it's actually making me feel quite emotional relaying this story, because since I've made that decision, I've actually relaxed and I am enjoying just being.
Gorgeous, Denise. Thank you. Yeah, brilliant example.
But a relief.
Of
Such
course.
a huge relief.
Yeah.
Just that acceptance.
Yeah. Beautiful. Hi, Chris.
Hi. It just reminded me, I'm sure I know I've talked about this before, but when my husband was ill and I was sitting next to him and I was just saying, you know, what can I do for you? How do you want me to help you? And he just looked at me and said, just be. And it was a lovely moment. Yeah, it's beautiful. But I've just, something else that came up for me, reminded me, I've just been reading a book called Luminous Life, which is, it's really interesting. But in that, the guy that wrote it is actually an ophthalmologist, or he was, and I eye doctor. And he's looks at lots of the things about I suppose the sayings around your eyes as well. I mean, he's taking it deeper, our sight being not just our physical sight, but saying that the things that we need to do, they catch our eye.
Mm.
And that if I suppose if we're very focused on what we think we need to do, because we've thought about it, and yeah, that's what I need to do, we sometimes miss the things that are actually catching our eye.
Brilliant.
I like that.
Brilliant. Yeah. That reminds me of the conversation on the earlier gig. A lady wanted to do something, and then somebody had a conversation nearby and said, and it was to do with parenting classes. She wants to run parenting classes, and she was sort of wondering how to get started. And then somebody nearby said, I don't like any of the parenting classes, you know, we need something new. And she was playing a game with a child, and so she didn't want to leave the child to go to speak to the person. And then afterwards she was a little bit like, oh, I missed that opportunity. But exactly that is that caught her eye or caught her ear, but it wasn't a missed opportunity. It was just yet another sign of, yeah, there's something here, there's something for you to follow. Because of course, you know, there's the divine doesn't limit the opportunities we get. You know, they're abundant, aren't they? So just because we didn't follow it doesn't even necessarily mean follow that. It's just that awareness, that catching of the eye. Love that. I can't get rid of my bullet journal though. Don't make me get rid of my no. It's right here next to me as well. Mark, did you want to say something?
Sure. So I'm listening to this, and I'm thinking how lately I've been what I call happy for no reason. Like there's no particular reason that I should be happy, other than there's a whole world of thinking that's lifted off of my head. And it just occurred to me that that's the only thing that keeps you from being blissfully happy all the time. And then that we're always taken care of. And that, yes, of course, if we are in the flow, things will pop into our mind and we'll do them and then wait to be guided again. And yeah, it's just we don't have the muscle memory to do that. We've been totally taught a whole nother way to live and be, and you know, I just wonder what life would have been like if we were all taught the other way, and what would the world be like. So that, you know, that's kind of what I'm hearing, you know, like, yes, we're getting glimpses of how life really is, not, you know, the illusion that we create in our mind, like every second of the day. And yeah, just that idea of being, and then the doing comes from the being, you know, that's really what I heard. And what a deeper experience it was for you to see that. And when we get these glimpses, right, and they're like, it's always trying to show us this, always. And we, you know, we're either awake to it or sometimes we're asleep to it. But, you know, like these conversations that we're having, and, you know, other groups that come together, it's just like, it just keeps coming back to the same thing over and over again, saying it in a million different ways, but it's the same simple one thing, right? It's just, and it's like this forever conversation that we can have and fall deeper and deeper and deeper, or go higher and higher. And you know, that's what's being demonstrated in your life and in my life and everybody on this call. So really just feel so aligned with what you're saying, and it really resonated for me about, your story today. What
Yeah,
happened last week.
thank you. I noticed another thing as well, that I was talking to Derek recently about this, and I don't know how this has happened, but I'm a recovering project manager. I love getting my bullet journal out and doing a little plan and everything else. And it actually brings me a lot of joy. I really enjoy doing it. I find it reflective. The process is reflective, and I just enjoy it. But I haven't done any for a while. Obviously, this week I'm ill, and last week was baby week. And a few things have happened during that time. And because I've not been able to get and do it, I've actually thought, well, I'll do it when the time's right. Like, I don't need to do it now. And the fact that I haven't means that I just haven't expended that energy doing what didn't need to be done to be busy for something that hasn't even happened yet, because it might happen in a couple of weeks' time. Like, it sounds funny now, but that's what I would do all the time. And so I know that in the second that I need to do that, it'll all be there. I don't have to do it ahead of time to make myself feel better, when actually I probably don't need to do it, and it gets scrapped anyway, because that thing, a couple things didn't even come off that were meant to come off, that I would have planned for. And an example of that is, I'm involved with a little writing group during November, and we're on that writing group, and there's a platform that we blog on, and people wanted to, I've got a few tricks and tips, and I said, oh, I'll share that stuff with you. I'm good for that. I'll do like a presentation next week. And even with this illness, I came off the call, I was so vibrant. I literally wrote a 6-week program within less than an hour. It was just pouring out of it. I couldn't write fast enough. And I thought, wow, like, where did that come from? And I'd even, I don't want to charge for it, anything. I'd even figured out an exchange, a way of people being able to exchange, so that there's value, but it's not a financial, and the whole thing. And I thought that I'm shown that often. I'm shown that just aliveness comes through you, drives you to do what needs to be done, or what can be done, or to create. Like, that's how you create a painting, isn't it? That's how you create a piece of music, is that you get driven beyond you to create something. And then, isn't that where to look? And if it's not there, like when Denise was talking, if it's not there, then absolutely do nothing, because when it needs to be, it will just be there in an instant. We don't have to work for it. We don't have to fight for it. It'll just be there. It's amazing. And you're absolutely right, Mark. Our conditioning means that we don't live like that. But every time I see it, I think, oh, go on, try and live like that a bit more. And right now, in this very soft head that's going on, I feel as though I could, but somehow I know that, I'll get busy. I'll get busy doing what I think I should do. But we'll see, maybe each time it happens, there's a softening of the edges, and so it's easier to not do so much, or relax more.
The thing is, if you keep too busy, then you won't see the things that catch your eye. And going back to my mum and dad's, I was trying to fit in, doing the washing and the cleaning every time I popped up there, and trying to fit that in with work and other things. And when I stopped trying to figure out my future with them, I actually started to enjoy and continue to make memories, because you forget that. You're so focused on making their life physically better by doing the washing, keeping them clean, all the rest of it. You forget to just sit down and be me and be the daughter and have a chat and do the nice things. And yes, if you're just too busy trying to do anything, you miss those, and things don't catch your eye, and you miss opportunities.
Absolutely right. Yeah, absolutely. I love what Mark said as well, that I picked up was, we're taken care of. The thing that birthed that little creature and helped him live, and I know that he had amazing help from the NHS and an incubator and tubes and all of that stuff, and he had that intervention help, but the thing that created him and then had him be born and had Lolly know herself so well that she took herself off to hospital and was even then able to hobble out and kick her man up the arse and then hobble back in again, and then give birth to this amazing little man. That thing still got us, and that's what we forget, isn't it? The thing that's breathing him and living him and helping him put on weight and helping him feed, despite the fact that there's intervention from the parents to encourage that, that's the essence. The essence of life wants to live. And you can really see that in him. And so I think that I just forget that, yeah, that's me too. And that can't let me down, because it's the essence of life. And that is always there for me. It's always that. It's what Alfie said at the beginning, the ability to be, the being is always being, even when I'm dressing it up with busyness. I don't know, it's just so special to reflect on that and allow myself to fall into that. It strikes me as well that aliveness, what a few of you have touched on, is that we know where there's aliveness, and that's the thread to follow, isn't it? And if there's no aliveness there, do nothing. sit back, wait, be uncomfortable with that. Like, we're sometimes uncomfortable with the silence. Be uncomfortable with the not doing, because the aliveness shows up again. I love that you're here, Wilson, and that you're just listening, but we'd love to hear from you as well.
Hey,
Hey.
so I'll just pop in and just hear some wisdom.
Ah, Well, it wouldn't be the same if you didn't speak.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Quickly on the topic, I've just found that like recently. Sorry, one second. Let me turn this bloody TV down. I just found that recently. I've just been in a state of what I call like hovering. So it's like, even if I really think I should do something, I don't even take that serious anymore. I kind of just see where I feel about it, if that makes sense. And it's like, even in moments where I feel I need to make a split decision, I feel it more to slow down.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? I feel it more to slow down, and I feel like that's just enhancing my experience on any other situation that I kind of occupy my mind with. Because instead of going full guns blazing and this is that, that is this, and it's that label thing, I'm trying not to really label something, because I realize if the label changes, I'm going to blame everything else until I'm aware that I changed the label. So it's just like, yeah, I'm just trying to navigate through that feeling more. And yeah, it's just like hovering, man. It's just beautiful.
Hmm.
Mm.
Love.
I was thinking about when you were talking about that feeling of intensity of wanting to go down, and Papa saying, no, don't go, and how it's almost easy to look back on that and think, yeah, that was a wrong thing. That was something not to follow. And I see how that's a loop, a trapdoor for me, is in that feeling, trying to kind of go, is this a sign to go or not a sign to go, or try and interpret it. And actually, if you had gone following that impulse, then that would have been the thing to do as well. So it's not like not going then was the right thing, and not going, or waiting was the right thing. It's just what happened the way it was meant to happen. And I guess if you had rushed off in the night, that would have just been what happened as well, and it wouldn't necessarily have been wrong.
For sure.
So I'm curious, how do you know, when?
Yeah. Absolutely. So what it showed me was that the sense of urgency cannot be trusted. There's a sense of urgency that comes with a calm knowing of, okay, yeah, I need to go there now. But the sense of urgency of, I could tell that I had this, right, show that you're doing something, show that you're willing, I don't want to I don't want to scupper this opportunity of being invited to be part of this. And so I've got to, you know, so there's stuff, there was lots of ego stuff that came with it. But the sense of urgency, and I tell you what I could tell at the time was I felt so trapped by not going. I felt I'm being trapped. I'm being held back and I'm being trapped, and he doesn't understand. And that was a telltale sign to me that something was off, because, you know, Papa has got my back 100%, and everyone's back, you know, but he's just very, very reasonable. He can see, he always sees the bigger picture. So that I'm trapped, that gave me a hint of something other than wisdom is going on here. This is me wanting to be active. And it really, in hindsight, because in the moment I didn't feel the calm at all, but in hindsight, even the next day, I was able to see, wow, how often do I act on that? Now, absolutely, it works out however it works out, you know, and there's no right or wrong, or what is. But it helped me to be more aware of that. You know, when people talk about follow the feeling, that's what that meant. To me, in that moment, I was like, oh, that's what they mean. That was not a cut. Now, I can go against what somebody else is, you know, the voice of reason can say, that's not a good idea. And I know, well, I know I'm going to do this anyway. But that comes with a very different feeling, and much more calmer. Probably doesn't look like the right thing to do to you, etc. But I know it is. And so I'm okay with it. This didn't come with that. This came with a much more angsty feeling. So in hindsight, it's helped me to really see that it really does come with a feeling. When you've got thinking, you know, it didn't come from that space that Mark's talking about, that joyous, wow, like that joyous space, thinking about it. A joyous space is never going to say, get in your car, you know, late at night when it's dark and it's raining, and drive down to a hospital that you can't even go into, and then sleep in your car for the rest of the night, because that's the right thing to do. You know, thinking about it, that isn't the right thing to do. But if, let's say, thank God it didn't happen, but let's say there was, you know, some bad thing happened and the baby didn't make it or something like that, wisdom would have guided me as well then. No, actually, you need to be there. And I'd have known that, but I'd have known it from a different level, and there's a confidence that comes with that, isn't there? Of, no, I know this is what I need to do, even though it looks like it's not, you know, logical. So I guess, Alfie, it's to me, I will take that, and I see the difference in that. So I'm able to allow that to be in my knowing. And you have to try it with, because it can get confusing, but as soon as it gets confusing, as soon as it gets to, well, it worked out, or this would have worked out, or anything else, then I'm back in my head again. Then I'm back into thought, and that doesn't really matter. It's that, where's the space that I know is the truth, that where can I keep going back to follow that? And that maybe sometimes I'm not so sensitive to that, but with practice you get sensitive to it, and with awareness you get sensitive to it. And certainly for me anyway, I now sort of go, oh, I've seen that again. And, you know, in a few months, I'll probably be just all sped up again and you know, like back to my normal habitual behavior. That's okay too. But every time I see it a little bit more, or I see it on a different level, or something. Did that answer your question or your comment?
Yeah, I can see that now. It's the difference between doing that arises from that place of being, or doing that arises from, I suppose how I would see it is when we're in that parasympathetic nervous system state, versus doing from an activated kind of sympathetic nervous system state. So you were possibly in adrenaline, very stimulated, your nervous system wasn't in a, you know, neutral, calm place, and that was tricking you into needing to flight more and more and more, rather than being in that neutral space. And then, oh yeah, this natural doing of now I need to get in the car, from this inspired action kind of place that isn't an adrenaline driven sort of, yeah,
Yeah, nice.
confusion or something.
Nice.
Mm.
Yeah. Lovely. Yes, Chris.
I was going to say the thing that for me, and it'll be different for other people, but for me, I know when I'm not, you know, I've gone a bit off track, is when I get defensive about things. Yeah, and I know also I've noticed there was an occasion recently where I didn't follow my intuition. I knew, but I didn't follow it. And something that I would have preferred not to happen happened because of it. But actually the whole process was really useful because it allowed me to sort of see what had gone on and to be open with the person. And yeah, so it, like you said, it wasn't, you know, it could have been seen as a bad thing, but it actually allowed me to open up more around that.
Amazing. Yeah, exactly.
The both really.
It's all learning, isn't it? Life gives you lessons. I love that this conversation has been a demonstration of what we've been talking about, because I never know. I never really know even what I'm going to say, and I never know where it's going to go for sure, because, you know, there are other human beings that come and do their thing, and I totally trust that with this. I have a theme because I found it useful to have a theme and to be able to advertise, but I totally trust that whatever comes. And so, you know, there's another example of when I can lean into it and know it's going to be okay, and yet I don't do that in other areas. So I love what Chris is saying there. That gives me the, oh yeah, look, I do it there. That's a cool thing. I was saying to someone that the greatest gift you can give to your client is having space, not being prepared. But our training is to be prepared, to read the notes and have the, you know, and do the this and the that. But actually, the greatest gift is to have ourselves in the the most spacious place possible, because what's needed in that moment comes anyway. And I never used to be able to remember names, for instance. And yet working in prison, and I knew everybody's name in the group. Everybody. I never forgot a name. And I'd see them and I'd know their names. And I used to think, how am I, people used to say, how do you do that? I wish I could do that. But I realize now it's because I was in such an empty space when I was with them. The names just came. They're there in your consciousness anyway. So because I was quiet, the names came to me very easily. And so if names can come to you, then how to run your life can come to you. Thank you, everybody, for this gift of this evening. Better than medicine. And thank you to the new people, Denise.
Thank you for the invite.
Pleasure. And hope to see you all again in December. Lots of love.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, Mama J.
Bye, Jill.
Bye.